Imagine you're the chief engineer of a manufacturing line, and it's an automated assembly line with lots of controls and automation and connections in between machines and controllers. And something goes down, and the line stops producing. I've been there. It's not fun. It's not fun when the plant manager is hovering over your shoulder, reminding you of the lost money every minute the line is down. It would even be worse if the manager hovering over your shoulder was the world's smartest guy. Well, maybe, in his mind, Elon Musk, and you're at Tesla, where the New York Times is reporting live. Glad I wasn't there. Hi, this is Gary. It's Gary on Manufacturing. And this podcast is brought to you with support from Inductive Automation. Discover a whole new view with Ignition 8 by Inductive Automation, packed with features for the modern control system like unlimited licensing, high-powered tags, a mobile-first flexible design environment for all devices. Ignition 8 supports enterprises of any size. See all Ignition has to offer at inductiveautomation.com. I was thinking about the resilience of automation systems and how so often they are actually quite brittle. It's easy for one part to break the entire system down. One time in one of my customers, I walked into the middle of a meeting, not intentionally. It was just my regular day to go visit them, and they said, "Oh, just the guy we're looking for. It's those damn Allen Bradley drives." Huh? What? Where are we going with this? And after we dove into the situation, and I should tell you at the time, I was a distributor sales engineer, and I sold Rockwell Automation products. But this particular assembly or production line made a particular part for an engine, and one of the machines on the line, I come to find out, the production capacity of that machine was rated at 90% of the production capacity of all the rest of the line. So if you ever read LAU Goldratt's The Goal about the theory of constraints, okay, right away we all know really obviously where the constraint is. It's that machine. Well, the machine had some older Allen Bradley drives on it, motion control drives, and they were somewhat misapplied. In other words, a shortcut had been taken that cycled the drives, and it's been too many years ago now. This was back in the 90s, and I don't remember all the details, but I remember enough that the machine was a constraint. The way they designed in the drives made it a bigger constraint. And every time the cam line went down, I'm thinking it's the cam line, then they couldn't build V6 engines, and it was the most popular engine of the time in the Ford Tauruses, which was the most popular car for them at that time. And guess what? This had a high visibility situation, and I got to know a lot of people at Rockwell Automation because of that, and some European machine manufacturers as well, and so on. And so, we sometimes design in brittleness instead of designing in resilience. And I got the idea listening to a podcast with Seth Godin, and Seth Godin talked about Airbus. And Airbus, in their inimitable geniuses and some executive suite, decided to build the world's largest airliner. It would hold up to 900 people. I remember when that was announced and they were talking about it. I was at an automation conference, and the speaker of the conference was Gordon Bethune. Gordon was at that time recently retired, or sort of asked to retire, as the CEO of Continental Airlines. And he was a really refreshing guy, and Continental didn't do quite as well. They replaced it with a bean counter because they wanted to get ready for merger, I guess, and they wound up taking on United. and that's another whole story. But Bethune was an interesting character, and he was just so down to earth and so logical. How he got to be CEO, I have no idea. But at any rate, he talked about this. He says, okay, what are the choke points? What are the problems? If you're on, he says, you guys all flew down here. What are your irritation points in flying? Well, it's boarding, deplaning, and picking up your baggage at baggage claim, and waiting for that. Those are points that are a real problem. So imagine having 900 people waiting in the gate area to board. Imagine getting all 900 people off of the plane, and then imagine, a substantial number of that 900 people waiting at baggage claim for all those bags to get unloaded and trucked and everything like that. And he said that's a real problem. Now, Seth Godin didn't talk about that part of it. He talked about, the other design problems they had, like every airport in the world had to rebuild their runways to take the weight of this huge new plane. New terminals had to be built to take the size, and jetways and jet bridges to get people on and off. And in other words, you had to basically redesign the whole infrastructure to take on this plane. So they finally built it at a cost of many billions of dollars, and they built a few of them, and they flew it for a while, and then canceled the project. Should have canceled it when the first genius in the boardroom brought it up, but that's another problem. But we have this way of not designing in resilience, and I'm wondering, as you are designing systems right now, and whatever the system is, if you're extremely lean, like a refinery or certain kinds of chemical plants, you've built in lean, and you can't make it brittle because you can't afford for it to go down. You need to build in some kind of resilience in there. And if you have an automated assembly line, like for a Tesla or for engines or cars or motorcycles or whatever it is you might be making, it's the same idea. You can't afford to have it so brittle that one thing can break and shut the whole thing down. But I really didn't come to talk about automation. I was talking as much about, or thinking as much about, us as people. I listened to a professor from a West Coast university talking. It's been a few years ago now, but she was talking about the students coming in and said the students are so brittle these days. They're so anxious and tense, and they've been expected to perform, and there's no way for them to escape if they ever fail at anything. The pressure of their parents primarily. And my daughter is a therapist, and she sees a ton of high school students, and the ones that come to her now, she's not seeing every student, but that's a prevailing problem that she has with her clientele. Is the same thing. There's no built-in resilience. They have to succeed. The pressure from the parents is intense. Pressure often from teachers if you're going to that school district that expects everybody to not just go to college but to Harvard. That sort of thing. There's no resilience for the kid. There's no no way like that. And what about in our careers? Do we build in some resilience? I mean, I've bounced around from one thing to the next. I'm always curious, always trying something new, and I did that automation thing for a while, and I went from that position to going into to magazine business, and the magazine business is a little bit brittle, and I left that to just kind of go out on my own and do digital things and do consulting and just coaching and helping people out. And I think as we look at ourselves, we need to build in some resilience, that we're not working 80-hour weeks, that we build in some hobbies and some free time to just think. And I think I'll recommend a book here that I'm almost finished with. It's called Analogia by George Dyson. George Dyson is the son of Freeman Dyson, a famous physicist that I had read. And I didn't realize his mother was a PhD mathematician and also a genius. And George Dyson is an interesting character, and you need to read the book to find out about him. But but it turns out his sister is Esther Dyson, and I knew about her like 30 years ago, well, more than that now, who in the 80s and 90s ran one of the top technology analyst conferences down in Arizona, and anybody in the computer business attended that. Unfortunately, I never made it, but then I was never that famous. But but here's a guy, George Dyson, who's extremely flexible. He started building kayaks. He got involved as a teenager in the Victoria, British Columbia area, and the whole rainforest area up the northwest coast, and so on. And he became a historian. He writes history books, amongst other things. But talk about building resilience in there, and more of us probably need to build some resilience in to our schedules and to our personalities and to our careers, so that we can survive a little bit better and not be so uptight. But sorry about the ramble. Just kind of going on like this, but started out with automation and not building resilience into our systems, and then let's build resilience into our careers, to ourselves, and into our children and grandchildren as they go on, so that they can lead a more fulfilled and productive life. And thank you for listening. This podcast is brought to you with support from Inductive Automation. Discover a whole new view with Ignition 8 by Inductive Automation. Packed with features for the modern control system like unlimited licensing, high-powered tags, a mobile-first flexible design environment, and it's for all devices. Ignition 8 supports enterprises of any size. See all Ignition has to offer at inductiveautomation.com. Thank you for listening. Have a good day. Go make a difference.